Hey guys, it's Nick from the PLR Site.com, and today I am doing the video I said I would do when it came to the homeschooling PLR. It's as relevant as ever, as what I said before, because of the government lockdowns and whatnot. So this time I have logged into my account. I'm giving you all a preview of the PLR. The last time was just kind of a cursory view of this stuff. This time I have 4 different previews to show you. So let's get started. The first one is the Homeschooling PLR. It's PLR, right? Yep, PLR ebook. Now, you think, oh, well, that's too small. Good thing we have magnification. So, legal notice, publisher strive to be as accurate as possible in creation of this book, notwithstanding solution. So here's the table of contents. The solution: why you must reduce your stress, daily stress busting techniques, strategy to conquer specific stressors, financial stress, conflict, stress at work. Let's see, uncertainty, family stress, putting it all together from stress to success. I have a feeling that that's actually from a different book. That's like a stress book or something, because right here's the benefits and all that. Anyways, let's get to the benefits. So the benefits of homeschooling. So why let Tim and Lisa learn at home than send them to school? Well, first of all, you don't have to wake them up at 7 every morning and bundle them off to school with umpteen numbers of instructions and wait with an anxious heart for them to return. Homeschooling requires, or rather gives you more control over the influences that affect your child. The growth and development of your child is removed from the realm of the unknown. You and you alone can decide what your child needs to do or learn. Tailoring the curriculum to suit the needs and interests of the child is one of the most obvious benefits of homeschooling. Individual attention is another salient benefit of homeschooling. For instance, if Lisa needs more time to learn math, then she can reduce the time for English lessons. There are no fixed hours of learning per subject. This means that a child has the advantage of assigning more number of hours to the subject that seems tough without any additional pressure. The amount of time needed to learn each subject will depend on the abilities and interests of the child. The schooling of the child becomes an extended family activity. Parents get involved in every step of the learning procedure. Field trips and experiments become family activities. Thus, the child receives more quality time with its parents. The entire family shares games, chores, projects. Family closeness becomes the focus here. The child is also free of any negative peer pressure while making choices and decisions. Competition is limited when it comes to homeschooling. The child does not need to prove his ability with regards to other children. His confidence remains intact. Since parents have the deep understanding of their child, they can plan the learning program to pique their child's interest. It is also possible to intersperse difficult tasks with fun activities. A tough hour of algebra can be followed by a trip to the nearest museum. Learning becomes fun. And I would argue, actually, that if the child has forgotten how fun learning is, then yes, learning becomes fun. But if you start from the beginning and you do it right, now even homeschoolers can mess up. Everybody can mess up. But don't lose. You need to keep this in mind. Everybody. I'm convinced at this point, after seeing so many, just throughout life, seeing so many little kids, maybe like 4, 3, 5-year-olds, just regular everyday life. Learning is fun from the beginning. Now, learning may be different things. Maybe it's this child's interested in, wrestling. This child's interested in fish. This one's interested in games. But learning is fun from the get-go. It's like our nature as humans to love to learn. It is school that beats out of us the desire to learn. Now, sometimes it can be other factors like family and stuff, but for the pure amount of, hey, you're going to have to sit as a 5-year-old for 7-8 hours, and you might get an hour of recess if you're lucky. Oh, and don't be too loud during lunch, and you might have a 30-minute nap. But besides that, even if they try to be fun with their stuff, with their activities, it's just like, no, this is the block that you're going to learn about this. It becomes, learning is not associated with fun anymore for kids. It's just like I know people that used to read all the time, and then come, high school, when you had to do that forced reading crap. To be quite honest, it's just crap. It does the opposite of what the English teachers think it does. There's so many people that I know that just stopped reading by themselves because they were forced to read a novel they didn't want to read, and after that, it's like, I don't feel like reading. I just got done with that. I'm not going to read again. Screw that. I'll do anything else but read right now. So keep in mind that it's really not. Don't focus on trying to keep your kid interested in learning. Just don't get in the way of them having fun while learning. That's pretty much it. Don't make them hate learning. That's your job. Don't make them hate learning. Don't do anything that'll make them hate it. So I'm going to keep going down a little bit. So word count, that was 536. This is 223. Disadvantages of public schooling. Let's get into that. We can go to the next PDF after this small article or chapter. So when we consign our children to public schools, we feel satisfied that they're receiving quality education. But are we really getting our money's worth? More importantly, are the children gaining anything from this kind of learning procedure? Socialization is held as one of the greatest advantages of public school, state school, whatever you want to call it. This is the place where the child picks up the rudiments of social skills that will help him survive. But in truth, a regular school-going child can interact only with his peers. He may bully younger children or fear older ones. He does not know how to behave with an adult. This is because in the school environment, he interacts only with his peers. Now, he does interact with a teacher and other adults, but think of the relationship. We're talking about the power relationship between the teacher and the student. It is not the same as if you all were out regular, just like homeschooling them, you were out and about and they interacted with an adult in public. An adult in public could not treat them, or I would hope you would not allow them to be treated, your child to be treated by a grown adult, as many teachers treat students. You don't have this toxic relationship that many, pretty much everybody has had with a teacher. At one point or another, you can't do much about it, especially if you're in government schooling. You're just out of luck, buddy. And furthermore, as Michael Mouse has said, and I'm going to butcher it, but public schooling, or rather school, is sometimes the only place, or often is the only place, most people will ever experience violence. Most people, that's where they meet most of their, you get bullied in school. You get hit in school. You can go through most or all of your adult life and not experience that. Your whole adult life, you might not get in a fight. You experience this violence mostly at school. And there's some people that can, that's not true but largely that is true. It's the only place most people will experience interpersonal violence. So a homeschooling environment brings in a more natural social environment. Correct. A regular school going child cannot read literature. He cannot keep silent or think in depth about any one thing. Again, some true, some not. But I understand their point. The artificial busyness imposed upon him by the schools disallows quiet contemplation. That's actually a really good point. Busy work, homework in general. Rowdy and destructive behavior, as seen among peers, is more noticeable in schoolgoers. Yep. Look up the difference between homeschooled kids and like state, public, government school, whatever you want to call it, school kids, and going to prison. It is outstanding in a bad way. There's little long-standing knowledge among regular schoolgoers because most things are learnt for the exam. There is no correlation of facts with life. The child may know a lot, but understands very little. This is where the homeschoolers beat the regular school goers. Ultimately, homeschoolers emerge more adept at facing the outside world. Yes. Now, moving on to the next one is a leap of faith, getting started with homeschooling. Now, this is the one that is only personal use rights, but I told you, read it if you want to understand homeschooling. And also, if you want to get the PLR rights, then just submit a PLR product request for this specific book. So don't worry about being like, oh, it's only personal use. You can get PLR and learn, So, wait. There we go. Okay. Is that not the... Hold on, sorry. I had this pulled up and apparently, not really. I'll be moving on to the next one. I'll be coming back to that to see if it loads. If not, whoops. Can't do much about it when it does that. So, homeschooling. This one I talked about how the cover looks cool. Let's move on to the sample. Limit of liability. Information contained for information purposes only. Okay, so here's your table of contents. Lengthy. Is homeschooling right for your children? Homeschooling socialization, involving your homeschool child in sports, homeschooling versus unschooling, unschooling for young children, using television to start homeschooling early, keeping up with homeschooling paperwork, choosing a homeschooling curriculum, scheduling a homeschooling day, homeschooling on a budget, homeschooling supplies for preschool students. You can only cut and paste so many times, bringing public school ideas into homeschooling. Why? Why would you do that? Using field trips as part of homeschooling. Let Mother Nature homeschool your children. Incorporating holidays and special events into homeschooling. Incorporating life lessons into homeschool curriculums. Creating a preschool curriculum. Sample study plan for first grade homeschoolers. Homeschooling your older children. Group homeschooling. Homeschooling high school students. Getting started with homeschooling. I would have thought that would have been the first thing, but So is homeschooling right for your children? There are many reasons that parents choose to homeschool their children these days. And as I've said, you can edit these. Or is this a PLR or is this master resale rights? This is PLR, so you can edit this. I think right now the main reason, or at least 50%, of the reasons why people are homeschooling their children right now is because of the lockdowns and the atrocious policies put in by these schools. So, with the continually rising cost of even public schools, a lot of families simply cannot afford to pay things for things like uniforms and a vast amount of supplies. Let's be honest, a lot of these supplies are just for the teacher. There are also the ever-increasing incidents of bullying in schools, and if your child is in the least a bit different, he or she can be targeted. Sadly, it seems that teachers, school counselors, and even principals can do nothing about this, or so they claim. Correct, but if you've never had to deal or seen someone deal with a SRO, a school resource officer, administrators and teachers, especially administrators, can do a lot because look up how many SROs arrest children, okay? Not for stuff that necessarily think, oh, they beat someone or something like that. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, but then they'll turn a blind eye to a lot of bullying unless it's done right from them. Anyways, there are also the ever-increasing incidents of bullying. The level of education in many schools is another reason for homeschooling. Many teachers are merely glorified babysitters in some schools because they have classrooms filled with students that have no interest in learning. The list goes on and on. Whatever your personal reasons are for thinking that homeschooling will be best for your children, there are still some things to take into consideration before making that final decision. Have a look at the following checklist and then see where you stand on the idea of homeschooling. So research homeschooling laws in your location. Depending on where you live, it can either be almost too simple or next to impossible to homeschool your children. Some places it's just illegal, but not in the United States. Many states have laws or rules that almost require the parents to be degreed teachers before they'll be allowed to homeschool. Other states require that you register your child with the school district they live in, along with declaring your intent to homeschool. Some places require that you keep track of and report attendance, while other areas have no such requirements. To stay out of trouble, be sure to check into the laws of your location. That is absolutely true. This is some serious stuff. Get it right, because if you do not, you can have DCS stuff barking at your door. You don't do that. No, just do stuff right. Just tactically, Be honest about your patients. There are many children, although well loved by their parents, that still exhibit difficult and challenging behavior. The harried parents of these children are often relieved to see them head off to school. It's the only way that these parents can get a break. Therefore, it's important to do a check on how patient you are. Well, to me, if your child has those challenges, then actually that gives there's way more reason for you to homeschool your children. And get someone to babysit them once in a while and go out. Or, just grow patience because you've had this child. It doesn't matter whether you have patience or not, or whether you're breaking mentally. I'll be honest, the child comes before you do. Do you have the patience to be with your child all the time? It also takes a fair amount of patience to teach something that your child may not get the first time around. Hey, that's fine. Think about when you've done jobs. Did you have to know everything and remember every single thing first time around? Most people's going to say no. There may be some jobs and some things you had to. But don't worry about them not knowing everything first time around. Don't just think of it, well, it has to be done this way. Think about real life and how you've had experiences in your adult life. It goes from emotion to learning, stuff like that. They won't get everything the first time sometimes. That's fine. The second, third, fourth time you go around, they might. You must be able to remain calm in these instances. So can you make learning fun? Do you feel qualified to teach your children? If you don't, I suggest study. Just study. So that's about all for that sample. And looking back, let me try this once again. But it looks like this is not going to be popping up, which is unfortunate because I really wanted to. Oh, man, dang it. And this one is everything you want to know about homeschooling. Now, this comes with like a website, affiliate, my things, blah, 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 blah. There's a crap ton of stuff. But I've pulled up a PDF. So disclaimers, terms of agreement. What is homeschooling? The term homeschooling basically refers to the process in which one or more children of not more than two families are instructed by a parent or legal guardians or a member of either household. The laws that define homeschooling vary from state and from state to state. The legal requirements for establishing homeschooling also vary with the state. For most children, the actual process of learning begins much before school. Many children already know their alphabets, the names of the animals, colors, and other more complicated stuff before they reach school. This is mostly due to the hard work of a member of family who has taken time to teach the child. There's the guidance needed. But anyways, homeschooling is just a natural progression from there. Instead of sending their children to public school, parents make their own curriculum and teach their children in ways that best suit their child. This is homeschooling in its most simplistic form. Before you decide to go in for homeschooling, there are some important matters for consideration. First off, meet with parents of other homeschoolers. Find out the pros and cons of homeschooling. Then ask yourself why you would want to adopt this method. This is a very important aspect as the success of the program depends on the clarity and sincerity of your purpose. Next, it is time to consider the expenses of homeschooling. It may cost anywhere between a few $100 to a few thousand every year. More importantly, you are also effectively shutting out any job opportunities for one of the parents. There's ways you can avoid that with co-ops and stuff, but it is only obvious that one parent will have to stay at home full-time to manage the homeschool. Home-based business, however, is a great alternative. So, going down, let's see. Think homeschooling, not school at home. Yes, do not try to mimic public school at home. It is homeschooling. Education, home education. You can think of it that way. One of the greatest things about homeschooling is that you are not in any way limited like you are in a standard academic environment. There is no need for your child to just sit back straight at a table for a strict hour-long lesson. Try and think of what you're doing not as school at home, but homeschooling, or as I put it, home education. There's an important difference between these two ideas. One of the philosophies, homeschooling is much more than conducting standard lessons and schoolwork at home. The home becomes part of the education or schooling itself. So let's say you're teaching science. And Galileo's theory that when objects fall, they increase their velocity at a standard rate, regardless of mass. That sort of thing might not resonate well with a child when taught in a classroom, explained on a blackboard, or now a smartboard, while sitting at a desk, almost falling asleep. If you go outside and drop a tennis ball and a rock off the roof, however, your child will no doubt be astounded when the objects fall at the same speed, and the lesson will stick. In a similar way, if you're teaching biology, don't hesitate to take your children outside to examine an ant colony or some plants. By homeschooling, you open yourself up to a world of teaching opportunities that simply aren't practical in a public or private classroom. You can take advantage of the fact that children often learn better in a more comfortable and flexible setting. If your child wants to listen to his math lesson while sitting on the couch, let him. While you want to be careful, of course, to encourage to avoid encouraging a lack of discipline in teaching, you want to use homeschooling to expand the educational experience. Proper homeschooling means that the entire home and all the time spent there can be incorporated in the educational process, allowing for more hands-on and in many ways more effective education. So that's all for that. And I would say, yeah, I hate generally the holistic thing, but it really is a holistic approach. We keep learning all throughout our adult lives, and this just is homeschooling is seen as, it's kind of weird because before we get into public schooling, we are learning like we learn for the rest of our lives, and then we take this 13-year break from learning like human beings, pretty much, naturally, in the real world. And then once we get out, some of us might do university, which is a little bit different. But after that, we resume from where we left off at like age 4 or 5. So we have this weird about 13-year break where we don't learn. We forget how to learn. We aren't taught to refine how we learn through life. Our interest in learning is often killed or lessened. Even if we have an interest for learning, we are forced to do stuff. Maybe you're interested in freaking, science, biology. But, after 45 minutes of an hour and 15-minute class, you're kind of losing interest. And if it was up to you, you'd be like, okay, that's it for today. I'm going to move on to something else I'm interested in or do anything else. Because honestly, that last 30 minutes is pretty much crap. You're not learning anything. So these are things that you can think of if you want to homeschool. There's some ideas, even though this is supposed to be about PLR. Maybe it can make you understand your market a little bit better. So I hope that this helps you. And again, read this. I wish I could preview it. It's killing me that I can't preview it. But I'll be making some more videos, so stay tuned. I'll be doing some more niche PLR. So I'll see you in the next video.